Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then be sure to come join us. We definitely love to have you if you're a coach, consultant, or service provider. I think right now we've probably surpassed 6,000, we're going up about 6,300 members. So if you're a coach consultant, you're serious about getting to that 7-figure level, definitely come check us out. Now, with that being said, I want to introduce you to one of our the members of our community today, Angela. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, you're welcome. So tell us, what is it that you do?
I am an Ayurvedic specialist, and a lot of people don't know what Ayurveda is. It is actually the sister science or the medical side of yoga, and it's really awesome because it's over 5,000 years old, and unlike a lot of other healing modalities, it really hones in on everybody being an individual. So understanding that what they need in their diet, their lifestyle, their routine, their exercise, all of it is going to be unique depending on their body constitution. So I use that ancient wisdom to help my clients just in general feel better about their health, but it's also evolved into other things, helping them discover, their purpose in life, their career based on their unique constitution.
So what did you call it? What's the name again?
Ayurveda. It's
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Goodness. Okay, cool, awesome. And what got you interested in this type of work?
So years ago, it was almost 15 years ago, I went to India to study yoga, and I was introduced to Ayurveda. And at that point, I actually had a lot of health problems myself, and I went to an Ayurvedic doctor, and, he gave me one simple tip for my body constitution, which was to start cooking my food, because I was eating a lot of raw foods, raw vegetables, and my body constitution couldn't digest those properly. So I listened to him, and that just shifted so much in my body, in my mind, and I felt so much better that I just went down the rabbit hole. And 15 years ago, yoga and, I guess Eastern medicine wasn't necessarily what it is today in the West. So I was just literally going to the library, finding books, reading what I could on it. And eventually I did go back to India to study with an Ayurvedic doctor. And then I also did a program here in the US.
Awesome. So how long, when you said you went to India to study, was it like years? Was it just a few months?
So when I first went, it was a 4-week program. So it's a yoga teacher training, and Ayurveda is part of the curriculum there. And then I went back about 3 or 4 years later to study more yoga and more Ayurveda. And that was another 4 weeks, but it's intensive. So it's about 12-hour days,
12-hour days?
Yeah. You have lunch breaks and stuff, but it's an immersive program. So you go all in. And then my last Ayurveda program was a year-long program, which was divided up, like once a month we had 16-hour weekends, and then we had class like every Tuesday for a year. So I've studied a lot of it.
Yeah. So with the 16-hour weekends, but that's not like physical. There's a mixture of like physical classroom environments, those different things. So it's just like holding one pose.
Right. So in the immersive, that was mainly yoga. And then we had some other curriculum, understanding anatomy and philosophy of yoga. But the Ayurveda program was just actually classroom studying, nutrition and more anatomy and physiology of the body.
Okay. So this path you're on, if you were to look back on your life based on being here today, the things that you've been through, would you say you planned everything out to get into where you are? Or was it mostly you just, how did that go? How did that work?
Absolutely not a plan to start. I kind of just fell upon it. On my website, I tell my story that if you met me, 15-ish years ago, I was really angry, depressed, a very cynical person. And, people that meet me today, they like don't believe me, but I'm like, yes, I was. And it was because I wasn't honoring my body. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't exercising correctly. I didn't understand mindfulness. So it was really, it started off with accidentally going to a yoga class, which sounds funny, but someone talked me into going to it. And I hated yoga so much when I first started because I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't feel good in my body, being left alone with my thoughts. But the reason I kept going is I was in college and I was a poor college student and I paid for these yoga classes. So I was going to get my money's worth. That's the only reason I went back. And then it started to grow on me and I realized that I was starting to sleep better and, my anxiety was diminishing from yoga and it just all snowballed from there.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I think Steve Jobs said it best, right? Like you can't really connect the dots looking forwards, but you can always look back on your life. So what do you say is the biggest lesson, just based on your whole life's experience? What's that biggest lesson you've kind of taken away from all of it? Pretty deep question, right?
Uh, Yeah, I would think, and this is something I tell my clients, it's baby steps. Kind of like you said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. And I think everyone just wants to jump to that big picture. But where I am now, like there were so many small things that I did. And, small things one at a time. Sometimes they're simultaneous. So I think it's just really giving yourself permission to take those baby steps.
Hmm. Awesome. What are you seeing as the next? What's your vision? Where, as far as direction that you're headed? What's that vision that you currently have?
Um, So I've recently started a membership site and I started it based off of a lot of my consultations, my one-on-ones. There's so much information, so much resource, or so many resources I want to give my clients to continue taking their health into their own hands, but I can't be there and I can't email them, everything after our consultation, right? That'd be a lot of um, just that'd be a lot of emails, a lot of documents. So what I did is I put together this membership site that allows my clients, they don't even have to have had a consultation with me, but they can go into this membership site to start exploring Ayurveda on their own. So there's like a quiz that they can discover their unique body constitution. And then there's yoga classes and meditation for their body constitution. There are recipes for their body constitution, herbal formulations, herbal remedies. And then they also get a group coaching call with me once a month. So that's kind of, I'm trying to grow that right now.
Hmm. Sounds exciting. Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And who would you say is the ideal person for your membership?
Um, I would say, women sounds vague. I'm going to break this down. This is always the hardest question for me when, just with all my own business coaches, but it's usually women between 25 and 60 who have, done their best to take care of themselves, or they've tried all of these fad diets and maybe they lose weight, but they put it right back on and they just don't understand, why it's so hard. And so I think I often give them the answers to get off the fad diet train and really first understand their own body so they can eat, exercise, move, and live a life that's going to really complement who they are.
Hmm. Okay, awesome. Now, what about if we were to look back on your journey to get into where you are today, your success that you've created for yourself in your life and your business today, what would you say is one skill that you've mastered that's gotten you to where you are today?
Oh, one skill. This is a tough question. I don't know if it's a skill, but I got over fear. So I used to be so anxious about everything. I would be very anxious to teach in front of people, even though I loved teaching yoga. I would get so nervous beforehand. And, when the internet became what it is now, I never wanted to do videos. I never wanted to post pictures of myself. And I think getting over that fear and just doing it really helped my growth, and just my growth like as a person too and as a business.
Hmm. Okay, so ultimately, just getting rid of the fear, and that's so powerful, right? As far as because they always say like everything we want is always on the other side of fear, and most people
Mm-hmm.
see fear as it's this real thing. Versus the best example I've heard, the best way I've heard it described is was it false evidence appearing real. It's one of those
Mm-hmm.
things when you just like face it all of a sudden, it's like it's like this is it, like what is happening here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty cool, awesome. Now, what about what's about a story, right? So I always like asking this the question, like based on looking back on your life, what's a story that you've that you could share with us that we could look back and say, ah, so that's how you've kind of gotten to where you are today. Do you have any stories that you could share?
Yeah, it's kind of like what I mentioned before. I accidentally went to yoga, and then I kept going. And as I kept going, I think I was going for about a year. Somebody, like one of the other teachers, asked me if I wanted to become a teacher, because at that point it was college students teaching other college students. And I remember literally looking around me like she was talking to someone else. Like I didn't think she was talking to me. And I ultimately said yes. And I did a little training with them there at the university. And then one weekend, they provided a training for us yoga teachers where they had a professor who studied India and Sanskrit and the whole philosophy actually in India. She came to talk to us more about just the background of yoga, which I had not yet explored yet. And it blew my mind. I'm actually from Wisconsin, which is it's a Midwest state. I'm from a small town. So at that point, it just lit me up to think about going to India and studying. And I really believed in a lot of the philosophy and, the mindfulness. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And about a year, maybe 2 years after I graduated, I went to India and I studied yoga. And then I was introduced to Ayurveda, and just everything, yeah, just snowballed from that one point.
Hmm. Awesome. And what about a habit wise? What's one habit you practice daily that you say that would be responsible for your success?
Um, Drinking a room temperature cup of water with lemon and journaling.
Is it room
Yeah.
temperature cup of water with lemon?
Yeah. So it's a great way to hydrate yourself in the morning and to flush out your system.
Hmm.
So it's it's an Ayurvedic practice, a healthful practice before you put anything else in your body. Like the water, you want room temperature water because ice cold water will put out your digestive fire, make it slower, so slow down your metabolism. And then the squeeze of lemon actually ignites your digestive fire, so helps your metabolism and everything get revved up for the day.
Love it, love it. There we go, guys. That's a tip for you today. Okay, and what about breakthroughs, right? Another question I'd like to ask is breakthroughs, because I know every time we go on our journey as entrepreneurs, just going through life, we always get some pretty big breakthroughs. Have you got any of those or insights? Have you got any of those over the past days, weeks? And can you share?
Um, yeah, well, it's probably the last year. So I actually owned a physical yoga studio for about 3 years. And while I owned the yoga studio, we flooded 2 times, like severe flooding where water was coming up through the floorboards. We had to tear out the floor, tear the wall out, do mold mitigation. And as a brand new business, right, that's really tough and really scary. And um, it was such a learning experience. And I think it was, for me, even obviously it made me realize that owning that physical space wasn't for me. I was so stressed out. I'm teaching health and wellness, and I just kept getting sicker and sicker, and I was just burnt out and exhausted. And after I fixed the first flood, I started to build my business back up because that definitely affected it. And then it flooded again. And I was like, I think this is the universe telling me that I should not have this physical space. So after that second flood, um, also, the property decided that the fix was a lot bigger because obviously they didn't fix it the first time. So it was going to take a lot longer to fix. And I decided to close my doors and move everything online or more in a consultation format. And I've just grown so much. That was exactly what I needed to do. But I think I needed to go through the process of everything else that was involved with the physical location.
Hmm. Yeah. So your business is 100% virtual right now?
Yeah, I mean, I do in person. I did before the virus, but I'll do in-person consultations as well.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about after this COVID-19 is over? Well, are you going to go back to in person again?
Yeah, I'll do both. I think through my social media following, there are some people here in Seattle with me that they like to be face to face, like in the same room as me, but there's also people that can't make that happen. So I'll continue to do the online consultations and, really work at growing the membership site.
Hmm. Awesome. Now, what about books wise? Are there any books you've read that's recently had a big impact on your life?
Let's see. The one that's popping into my head right now is You're a Badass at Making Money. Have you read that?
What? No, I haven't heard of that one.
It's just really funny and also very inspiring.
Hmm.
I forgot who wrote it. I mean, you can Google it. It's a pretty popular book, but she does a really great job of, making money not so scary.
Hmm.
Also, removing the stigma around it.
Hmm. What's the biggest lesson? How did tell us the story? Do you remember any stories from there?
I'm trying. I know there's one with goats like breaking into her house. And I can't remember the actual, like what you're supposed to take away from it. I just remember laughing so hard. But I think it was kind of, she was, trying, pushing at something, like trying to push to make something happen. And, she's been really hard on herself. And then, she came home one day, she was living on this farm and the goats there broke into her house and like tore pictures off the wall and peed on the couch and she just ended up just laughing. She was like, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, when the goats break in, it's like all you could do is just suck it up, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, love it, awesome. So the next question now becomes, what do you like? How do you see? Are you a big picture type person or details type person? Right. So there's some individuals. So I realize there's some individuals they're totally big picture, and other people they love just the details, details like that. What would you say what's your personality?
um I think more big picture. I can get caught in the details, but I'm an idea person. Like I never don't have a new idea.
Hmm.
Like they just keep coming.
Yeah, awesome. And with the clients you work with, right? So what are the biggest challenges you see that they face?
Great question. I think it's self-awareness. I think a lot of people think they're self-aware, but they don't actually know what that means. And then it's very hard to tell them, because usually the people that think they're self-aware are a little more fiery. They're more self-confident as well. So if you tell them they're not being self-aware, they close themselves off right away. They get defensive. So I think that was a long-winded answer, but essentially it's just not being self-aware.
Hmm. Now, what do you feel like? How important do you believe self-awareness is?
I think it's everything. It's really what helps us make the right decisions for what we need as an individual. If we're not self-aware and recognizing, if we keep making the same decision over and over again, but we're not going anywhere, right? Say, for example, you're posting on Facebook every day, but you're not growing, right? You're not taking that step back to realize, oh, maybe I should change how I write this, or maybe I should change the time of day, right? You're not practicing that awareness. There's no growth.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Make
Okay.
perfect sense. Yeah, as far as it's going, when you go through life, it's being able to not just do things in a type of mundane type of just go through the motions, but more, taking more of a maybe an outside perspective of here's what you're doing, but looking at it from a place of, okay, how can it be different? How can it be better, right?
Right, exactly.
Love it, awesome. So we're kind of running short on time here, but if someone wanted to reach out and connect with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
You can check out my Instagram, which is Eka Veda Life. So EKAVEDA Life.
hmm Awesome. What about, do you have any free resources or anything you provide?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit. You can hop onto my website and you can actually take your body constitution quiz so you can discover your Ayurvedic body type. And then I'll also send you a free ebook that tells you how you can start to incorporate Ayurveda into your life, 4 little steps. And then I also have a Happy Belly, Happy You resource. So we talk a little more about um, finding optimal, healthy digestion.
hmm Awesome. Love it, Angela. Well, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today. I know you're pretty busy, you got a lot going on, but really appreciate you stopping by. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
I don't. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You're welcome. Well, in that case, enjoy and we will be in touch.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.